Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Mr. Ian Teaches English. A few days ago, I sat down with a really good friend of mine from English Between with Teacher Amy, called Teacher Amy, and we talked about questions that students commonly ask about English. These are questions that we hear all the time. One part of the video is here that you're about to watch. The other part of the video is actually on her YouTube. So go ahead when you're done with this video, check her out at English Between with Teacher Amy. She also publishes a lot of shorts on YouTube and Instagram and TikTok. So go ahead and give her a follow. If you have questions that you want us to talk about in a future video, go ahead and put those in the comments. Enjoy the discussion.
Go for it.
I'm not a native speaker. How can I be a good English teacher? That's a great question.
Yeah, I put this question in there because I've met quite a few non-native English teachers who are trying to be English teachers, or they are trying to improve as English teachers, but they're not native English speakers.
Right, yeah.
I've also had people look at me and say, wait, you had to learn to teach English? Thinking, yes.
Yeah.
Do you know the tenses of your language? So I always say, like, my biggest point, my biggest proof for why you can be a great English teacher when you're a native is that you know what it's like to learn English.
Yeah.
We don't know what that's like.
Yeah, that's true. Very true. Currently, I teach alongside two other women at work, and they both learned English. And so they have this amazing perspective of what it's like to learn English. What were the things that were really important that helped them speak more, that made things easier for them? And they've probably heard the same idea explained 4 or 5 different times and are able to say, that's a good way to do it. That helped me.
Yeah.
That did not make any sense. Where a native speaker, we can tell you if it's correct, but we might not always be able to say exactly why, or we might not have the best reasons why, because we didn't go through that. And so I think it's an invaluable experience tool. And if you are teaching English and you learned English, fantastic. I think that brings a whole different level.
Yeah. I feel like, exactly. I think sometimes non-native English teachers feel like they are at a disadvantage, or they, that they're a little bit less or not as good. But I think that, I don't know, I almost feel like it's an advantage to have learned English. Maybe you make mistakes still, but you're still able to explain things better. So yeah, I think, and your pronunciation is not a native speaker's, but again, we've already talked about that. That is not something that will change it'll get better, but it's not going to change anyway.
Yeah.
So
yeah, completely agree. Oh man, this next question. This is a tough one. Make or do? Good luck. All right, next question.
No. I do have an answer I usually give for this.
Well, I'm very interested to hear your answer because I've thought about this for a few years, and I can't give myself good rules on when we use one and when we use another. So I'd love to hear what you have to say, Teacher Amy.
My answer is not, I don't think that people really like my answer. but the answer I usually give is, okay, to make is to create. Okay. Do is for jobs. But the problem is that, and actually I took this from Dr. Folse, I think.
Yeah, good guy, smart guy.
Yeah, so if people don't know, he's just a big English grammar teacher. So he said that, I think this is how he explains it, and maybe that's where I got it. But he says the same thing, I believe. Make is to create, do is for jobs. The problem is that make and do are a part of so many idiomatic expressions
Yeah.
that they don't always make sense.
Like
So,
make your
like,
bed. You're not creating a bed. It's the
right,
chore.
make your bed.
Yeah.
How are you doing? Like, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so that's usually what I tell people is sorry, this is what it is. And, make us to create, do us for jobs. The rest, you're on your own. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and you kind of just have to give it your best guess sometimes. Like I think it's make, I think
Yeah.
it's do. Um, it is different from students always ask me what's the difference between will and going to, and they want to know every term. Mr. Ian, what's the difference? And I tell them not to worry about it. Like there is a difference, but don't worry about it. Just do your best because I don't want you to stand in line at the store or be in a job interview and you're thinking, is it make? Is it do? Is it will? Is it going to? Just give it a shot and try it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Yeah. And that one, yeah, as you again, just like with any other idiomatic expression, you really just have to hear it a lot and to practice it a lot. So
Right.
practice the phrases over and over again until it's instinct, until you can say make the bed instead of do the bed.
Do the bed. That's funny.
Yeah.
doesn't mean
That's
anything.
why it's no one's fault that they have trouble with make and do. Sometimes people think, why can't I get this? Spanish speakers tell me. But it's confusing. That's why.
Yeah, absolutely. Completely agree. All right, another good one. What does the mean?
Okay, you answer this one because
like
this
this
was
one.
a question one of your students had.
Oh, yeah, I love this one. I tell my students about the word the. It is so different in English than in other languages. Some languages don't have it, doesn't exist. In other languages, you use it, but just in a completely different way. Here's the secret to the. You can only use the word the when you and your listener understands exactly which one you're talking about. And because of that, you will use the word the with people you know a lot more than people you don't. For example, if I say I need to get the car fixed this weekend. Now, do you know which car I'm talking about?
Right.
You don't. So I can't use the word the because which car you don't know.
Yeah.
But if I say the same sentence to my wife, she understands my situation. She understands which car works and which car doesn't. So she knows which car. So you'll use the word the with people you know a lot more because they know and understand your situation. For regular conversations, you won't use an article or probably use more or a personal pronoun. I need to get my car fixed. So
that's a great way to explain that. I'm still learning. I have not had to teach articles very much.
Oh, I love it. I love teaching articles. And I love it. I especially love it.
I'm still learning.
When students use the word the, we'll go through with a paragraph and there's the blanks and you have to choose a and the or nothing. And
okay, that's my challenge this semester. My in-person class, I'm going to do articles.
Yeah, it's a lot
for
of fun.
Me more than them. I'm just kidding.
I really enjoy it because they're so difficult. They're so they do follow a set of rules, but sometimes it almost doesn't seem like they do unless you really understand them. So, I love the word the. And I just like the pronunciation of the word the. That TH sound is probably my favorite sound.
Many people probably disagree with you on that, Mr. Ian.
I know they hate it. On the same note, a and an is the next question. So I'll let you take that one. Still article.
Yeah, so I submitted this one because so people ask me this question and they seem confused, but I always tell them that we use an with a vowel when the next word starts with a vowel sound. That's where it gets confusing for people. And so I think that's why people start thinking, because the rule is very simple. Right, with a versus an. A, if the next one starts with a consonant sound, and if the next one the noun starts with a vowel sound. However, people, I think, get confused because they start seeing exceptions because they're looking at letters instead of listening to the sound.
Exactly.
So that switch, and I keep having to do this with my students. In fact, today I was teaching a live class about connected speech, and I kept saying, I keep every single time I do a pronunciation lesson, I say, okay, we're talking about sounds. We're not talking about letters. English spelling is horrible. Please stop looking at the letters.
Yeah.
So, for example, what's an example? An herb. So in North American English,
exactly
we
the
say
one I was going to
herb.
say. Yeah.
Yeah. In North American English, we say herb.
Mm-hmm.
So Herb, herb. So we would say an herb,
mm-hmm.
right? There's an H there. That's a consonant, but we don't there's no sound.
Yeah.
Yeah. Same. What is another one?
Well, just on the flip side of that, so my wife speaks British English, and in Britain, they pronounce the H. They say herb with the
right.
sound. So she says a herb. She uses the A, and it's the same word, but because we pronounce it differently, and that's the key. It's the sound, not the spelling. And students use spelling all the time instead of sound. But yeah, did you have another example?
Oh, yeah, I thought of one. Unicorn. So my daughter loves unicorns.
Yeah.
We don't say an unicorn, right?
Yeah.
Because it's a U sound, a unicorn.
Mm-hmm.
So the same thing, there's a U there, but because we're hitting that kind of, it's a Y, so it's kind of a semi-vowel, yeah. but that's that vowel sound, we don't use the an.
Yep, and that's another, I use university when I do it in class because they see it and they, especially a lot of languages pronounce it like ooh, they use that ooh sound. So they think, oh, it's un, but no, not with the pronunciation. That's not how
exactly.
it goes. Exactly. All right. Now this one, I think we're down to our last couple questions here.
Okay.
This one is tough to explain, and I think you had a pretty successful video about this, so I'll let you do it. Can you explain in and on?
Yeah, I submitted this question because in general, so we're just talking about prepositions in general. Right. So not just in and on, but I get questions all the time about please explain at, please explain of, please explain from. And so what I always tell people, again, not always the most happy answer, right, is I say, okay, so if we're talking about in and on with location, with position, right? It's, my water is in my cup. My hand is on my cup. That's very consistent. It's very consistent. But if I'm talking about in and on with a phrasal verb,
sure,
or attached to another verb, not just a phrasal verb, like depend on someone.
Right, yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. And it's the same in other languages as well. In Spanish, I am struggling so much with this because in Spanish, it's the same way where prepositions, they just choose a different one. You marry with someone instead of marry to someone, right? Yeah. So again, position, we can talk about it. In means inside, on means on top, right? If we're talking about verbs, forget it.
Yeah, there's no really rules to follow there. And I teach my students the same thing. With position like that, it's a little bit easier. But when you start talking about collocations, those words that go together in English, it's the Wild West. There's no really real rules. You just learn them. The good news is that in many situations, people still understand you. There are a few exceptions, but for the most part, if you say, I am married with my wife, everyone understands you. It's not right.
Exactly.
You should say, I'm married to my wife, but everyone understands and it's not a problem.
Yeah, exactly. And it doesn't sound that weird. So
it's a little bit weird to me.
Yeah, okay.
But I know what
Well,
you mean. I know it because it makes sense. The word
yeah,
with, it sounds like a
yeah,
good word to use there.
yeah,
All right.
exactly.
Last question here.
Last
This is
question.
it. Can you explain double negatives? Double
Okay,
negatives.
your turn.
All right. Double negatives. This is an interesting question because many languages allow double negatives. If something is negative, then kind of everything is negative in the sentence.
Hmm.
But in English, we look at it like math. So, -1 and -1, if you have two negatives, you're actually reversing the operation. My
Hmm.
daughter's in, you know, 7th grade math, so this is something I deal
Yeah.
with all the time. Two negatives create a positive in math, and the same thing happens in English. If you say two
Hmm.
negatives, for example, I don't have nothing, well, those two negatives cancel, and you actually said, I have something, which can be
Right.
really difficult for students to understand if in their language you're allowed to use double negatives. There was an old TV show. What was it called? It was a military show where it's when my mom was a kid, where the general would say, "I don't know nothing. I don't know nothing,"
Yeah. I don't
and
know. And you will hear some double negatives. Yeah, like you're saying, from some English speakers. Some people will use them.
yeah, yeah, it's usually considered. I was always taught that it was considered, incorrect or uneducated. It sounds very uneducated, and
Yeah.
it's also possible that you're doing it to change the meaning. If my wife says, "Did you eat the cookies?" Well, I didn't not eat the cookies. Right. I used the double
Exactly.
negative to play with the words.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah. As long as you know what you're saying.
as long as you know what you're saying, you're fine.